Noosa's home, I guess. I grew up here. It's a relaxed, outdoorsy lifestyle. We get kangaroos out the back every afternoon, kingfishers and black cockatoos and galahs and all that sort of stuff around. It's beautiful to have them so close to your home. When you move to a bushland, it's always in the back of your mind that it could happen. You never thought you'd lose everything all at once.
"35% of the Shire is in some form of protected land, either as national park or conservation land. So obviously if there's a lot of bush, there's a significant amount of risk in terms of bushfire.
What makes a fire dangerous is the conditions. What is the humidity, what is the temperature, what is the wind direction. What we saw in the 1920 seasons was unusually high winds later in the day throughout the night. There was a period of conditions where it just didn't let up.
Our day started with Kempy giving me a call at 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd been in Brisbane the night before for work and he had gone for a bike ride. A lizard had jumped through the front of his wheel and he went head over handlebars and was calling me from PA hospital. "I've just got a broken collarbone." He said, "All right, let's keep going and come down to Brisbane and stuff." So I was about to leave home and noticed a couple of plumes of smoke just off in the distance.
I went down to the front of our house where there's a guest room and ensuite. And I went in there and I thought, that smells like smoke. So I just shut the louver. Somebody's phone got a ping and they said, "Oh, there's supposed to be a fire coming from Peregian Springs." And that again, it didn't spook me because it had happened before. Firefighters usually caught it along the National Park's ridge. Probably half an hour later, my husband was outside doing something. He said, "Come and have a look at the sky." And it had turned this tomato red. Never seen the sky that colour before.
I got a call from the Regional Assistant Commissioner, Gary McCormack, and he told me that a fire had started just south of Peregian Springs. Just 20 minutes later, it had already jumped the motorway and was heading towards the Peregian Beach community.
I called a girlfriend who was a firefighter and asked her if those 2 plumes of smoke were something I should be worried about or not. And she said it was a pretty intense fire and to get out as quick as possible.
My first tasking was to go out and to see what was actually happening and where this fire was going. Resources were coming in of all different fire services, rural appliances, urban appliances. It was a very proud moment for me when I started to see fire trucks from the Greater Brisbane region coming in from urban fire rescue and rural fire service from all over the place.
You could hardly see, there was embers and smoke and it was getting dark. So I grabbed one cat, I had 2 cats, the other one got away. I put her in the car and I went up along the esplanade. The police wouldn't let me go back. That's when I did go to the junction.
I'm the venue coordinator at the J, which is like a multi-use community venue. We'd just finished work, all of a sudden we had to stand up. People got to get evacuated immediately and we just had to set up in a real short period of time. People were streaming in, right through the night.
The sirens are going up and down the street. Evacuate now for everybody. And so Ron went out to tell them that about the 94-year-old gentleman across the road that we might need their help to get him down.
Every available police unit on the Sunshine Coast was called to Noosa that afternoon, plus every car between here and Brisbane. Our first thing to do is protect life and property, so we had to get people out, physically going to each residence saying, "Clear out, clear out, clear out," carrying some people out. There was people running along the street panicking and, you see a police car get in, just get in and transporting them away. It was just so black you couldn't drive.
It was scary. It got very black very quickly. Ruby was following me around the house and she said, Mummy, why is it so dark? I don't like dark. I want it to be daytime again." When we were leaving, sitting at the end of the driveway waiting for the gate to open at the time, the trees across the road in the National Park, the tops of those were on fire. Trucks screaming down the road as we were going out the road and as I got to sort of the clearing halfway along the street and daylight broke again sort of thing, that's when you took a deep breath and went, okay, we're out. Still makes me shake now.
Local government does a whole range of things in an emergency that people wouldn't ordinarily think of. We will turn our top level of council into a disaster coordination centre, and every emergency agency and community agency that would play a role in a fire emergency would send a representative to that room, and we run 12-hour shifts 24/7 through the entire event, all playing our role in keeping the community safe, and that's how we're coordinating the response.
When a catastrophic weather event occurs, we as humans think of ourselves first. We think of our immediate family, we think of our friends, we think of who can we call. A wildlife rescuer thinks about what's happening to those animals. And we start to pack our cars with our rescue equipment. The sad thing is we honestly can't do anything to save those animals until that event is over or dissipating, because it wouldn't be safe to go in there ourselves. And in the end, we lose a lot because of that.
Kempy was driving as fast as he could home from Brisbane, and we had received a message, or I'd received a text message from a friend of ours who was a firefighter. During that time he'd said, send me photos of our house that had caught alight. So
I turned the TV on and they said one house in Plover Street had burnt up. Instantly I knew it was mine. I don't know why. There's nothing you can do. You just have to accept it.
We had a fire roaring up the beach side, so impacting on the Peregian shops, impacting on the Peregian Surf Club, and if we hadn't have pulled it up there, it would have kept on going. So a significant save where, through the good command and control processes that we had in place, we're able to provide firefighters of all different types and all different vehicles to actually cut it off there. To hold that line, that was our big objective on the night, was to not let this fire escape further north of Peregian Beach. We just punched big water into the flame as it came towards us, just to take the heat out of the flame, and that's basically how we controlled the fire until the next crews came in the next morning, in particular the aircraft.
The last 24 hours through some of the Sunshine Coast coastal frontage. What we've seen overnight was very sporadic fire behaviour moving through those estates. QFers will maintain a very heavy presence throughout the northern end of the Sunshine Coast for coming days, making sure that obviously our local residents are well informed, but also making sure they know that we're here to support them during the crisis that they're currently going through.
After everyone's evacuated, protection of people's houses, we flooded that area with police day and night. So we formed a bubble around those towns. Anyone that shouldn't have been there was stopped from entering. We didn't have any looting. We virtually had a police car in every street, 24 hours a day, just to keep people feeling like they were safer, that their houses were safe.
Part of the drama of that particular 3 days was the incorrect information. The radio got the news that 12 houses were down in Peregian Beach. 12 houses had been burnt out, is what we were told, that the IGA had gone, that the petrol station had gone, the pub had gone, that all of that sort of misinformation was peddled.
Where I had all my painting gear, that exploded. Apparently everyone just saw this immense explosion, and they naturally all thought it was the service station, but it wasn't, and it was my house from all my painting gear. So you can look on the funny side of it all.
It is frustrating in sometimes waiting for communication if it's an emergency incident that QFS is involved in. When the fire communication comes out from my organisation, it's been authenticated, it's been checked, and it is true and correct.
I wasn't allowed near it for 2 or 3 days, and then the police came with me. The veranda still wasn't burnt, and we could walk along the veranda, but you looked in through the doors and the windows and it was just a mass of embers. All my paintings went up, all my husband's records from the jazz bands, antiques and what have you, they've all just gone, just like that. I just think, oh well, that's life. That's life.
We were some of the first people out there doing the black walks after the fires, as soon as it was safe enough to do so. I guess the black walks represent hope, where you're trying to find an animal, some animals that can be helped. The main animals that we did find were the birds and then kangaroos, because they were able to actually disperse. The thing for koalas, the reason that it was so catastrophic is they were canopy fires. These weren't just underlying, a burn-off underneath the trees. It literally went into the canopy. And what happens to a koala if they're in a fire, they don't climb down, they climb up. And usually in the past, if there was fires, they could get up high in the canopy and it would burn around them and then they'd come down after the burn. But with the fire that hot and that high, that's where they didn't have a chance.
The council and the community were just wanting to give so much to help. It was overwhelming, actually, of how much help you got. I think I had a breakdown one night because there was too many bags to go through of donated clothes and stuff to work out what fits and what doesn't.
Well, I was actually very surprised that, that anybody would come and help. Everybody was wonderful. They all sort of looked after me. They just did things for me, which was very good. And I can't thank everybody enough that they all helped me.
I think that's something that we all realise, how the community did come together. It was pretty much overwhelming and quite emotional, the fact that people were offering strangers their homes to move in if the evacuation centre was too busy or there was elderly or whatever. They thought they wanted more comfort. People were offering their bedrooms, their houses, which is really amazing to see.
Fire can be good for the habitat itself, but not necessarily for the fauna within it. I think it's pretty amazing now to drive through that same area of Peregian, and most of it's come back. Some of the paper barks have not, some of the undergrowth I think is not, but it has come back. Unfortunately, it's with less animals.
There's a lot of work to be done proactively to make sure that these fires in urban areas don't necessarily happen in such ferocity. Now, we continue and continually need to do more to make sure that through fire safety techniques, through giving some resilience back to the landowner, to ensuring hazard reduction burning programs are put in place in the off-season to make sure that these fires aren't as catastrophic as they are. We're big on making sure that the community knows their advice and emergency alert levels. Have you got a plan to grab what you need and get out?
Well, I happened to like the area, and I didn't want to move from there. The insurance company came and I said I want it rebuilt, and they did, which was amazing. Did it exactly the same as it was.
It was never a question of, are we going to move, where else are we going to move to and stuff. We bought this place to raise our family. Let's make what we can of this. Let's build our forever ever home. If you can get yourself through it with the support network of friends, family, community, it makes you a stronger person on the other side.